friends, welcome once again to Korg Experiments. Today I'm here with a video on how to import wave loops and make a style. I'm going to make the whole elements of a style, 4 variations, 4 fill-ins, 3 intros and 3 ends. In this video, I would also like to cover some of the doubts viewers raised regarding this concept in the comment box of my other videos. So if you have not subscribed my channel, please do it now and press the bell button to receive notifications of my new videos. Unlike before, my first shot today is not a keyboard, but the screen of my PC. I have a few loops in a folder named Mix 152. It's a Duff Tabla Dolak mix loop made in a tempo of 152. You can choose any loop for this purpose. I make use of a free sound editing software called Audacity to slice, edit and mix the group samples I get from online. It's a good and free software with hundreds of tutorials on the YouTube. I play a few samples for you to listen. So let's get to business. I'm going to save these loop samples to my pen drive. I'm done with the PC and I go back to my keyboard. I'm going to connect the pen drive to my keyboard. Now I press the sound edit button and press the record button. We have edit, loop edit and sample info here. We can check the memory status of the keyboard in sample info, and I have about 57 MB left. If you don't have sufficient memory, you can delete the samples and multi-samples you no longer require. I have explained the process in my video on multi-sampling. Okay, now I'm going to load the sample. I press on the top menu arrow and choose load as sample. I'm going to look for the folder in the pen drive. I open it and I'm going to start with the variations. I select variation 1, load yes. We can see the sample in WAV forms in the loop edit page. If I press any key, I can hear the loop. If there is a delay at the start or end of the loop, we can edit it by trimming the start and end. I have described it in my video on multi-sampling. In the loop edit page, I press the loop on button and keep it activated so that I can hear it continuously. You should do it after importing every loop so that you can listen to it and check if there is any problem with the loop sounding continuously. Now I am going to press the menu button and choose slice. The option multi-sampling is used for multi-sampling a single sound. We need to adjust different parameters while in this page. The first thing is to select the meter. I am going to set 8x8 as my meter. One important thing to keep in mind is keep the same meter for all the elements. If you have different meters for similar elements like variations 1 to 4, when you make styles out of the imported loops, it will be distorted. The only exception is fill-ins because their length is normally shorter than the variation. For easy understanding, I have made 8x8 for all the elements of my loop. The second thing to give importance before slicing the sample is adjusting its tempo. I told you in the beginning that these loops are created with a tempo of 152 BPM or beat per minute. But if you look at the display, you can see that the tempo selected is 76. It is because the original record length of the loop is 2 and the keyboard selected record length is 1. So I am going to change it to 2, and you can see that now the tempo has been changed to 152. I try to increase it and it does not move. One important thing to keep in mind is that all the elements should have the same tempo as well. So one thing I did before starting the process is to check the tempo of all the elements. I had different tempo for different elements and I adjusted them using Audacity. If you sliced different elements in different tempos, for example variation 1 loop in 152, variation 2 in 145, variation 3 in 160, and so on. When you mix all these loops into a style, all these elements will be distorted and unmatching. The simple theory is that a loop which is sliced in a tempo of 140 cannot extend to a common tempo of 150 when you make a style, because it does nothing for the beat from 140 to 150. So the loop will adjust its tempo, making it sound weird. I'm telling all these technical details to clarify the doubts raised by some viewers and also the common mistake beginners make. Now I'm set and going to slice it. So I press the slice button. If you now touch the keyboard keys, you can hear the individual sounds of the loop has been assigned to different keys. Now I'm going to save the slice loop, and so I choose the right option and save it in the empty space in the user banks. I'm going to name it as Indie Mix V1, V for variation. Now I'm going to choose the second loop sample. I'm going to check the meter, record length and tempo are same as variation 1. I'm satisfied, and so I slice and write the loop as Indie Mix V2. Similarly, I'm going to import variation 3 and 4 by following the same procedures. Now I have completed the variations, and I'm going to import the fill-ins. I import fill 1, and you can see that the tempo is 240. It is because the keyboard selected record length of the loop is 2 and the actual record length is 1. So I make it 1, and then you can see that the tempo becomes 152. Sometimes when you get a fill-in loop which has a record length shorter than one measure, for example half a measure, the tempo of it will be half of the actual tempo. In this instance, you can change the original meter to half, like 8x8 to 8x4, 4x4 to 4x2, and so on. The purpose of it is to make the tempo common throughout. Now I'm going to slice, write and save it as Indie Mix F1. I'm going to follow the same process for all the other fill-ins. Now I'm going to import the intros. I import intro 1. When the selected measure is 1, it has a tempo of 38, and when I change the measure to 4, it becomes 152. Now I'm going to import, slice and save intro 2. Now I'm going to import the last elements, the ends. I have 3 end loops. The actual tempo of the loop is higher when it has a record length of 4 measure, but it changes to 152 when I change the record length to 3 measure. Now I'm going to slice it and save it. The tempo of N2 is higher when the record length is 3 measure. So I'm going to make it 2 measure. You can see that the tempo has come down to 152. You should make sure to write down the measure of each element, because when you convert them into style, you have to keep the record length and CV length the same measure. Now I'm going to import, slice and save N3 the similar way. We have now completed importing the different elements of the loop. Now I'm going to exit from the record mode. So I press the record button and follow the commands. We can go and check the saved loops in the user sound banks. Now I'm going to assign the wave loops to a style. A key thing to keep in mind is that you have to do all these processes at the same time. After importing them, if you keep the style making to another time, you may not be able to access the importer loops from the style record mode if the keyboard is switched off deliberately or even accidentally. you will have to import the wave loops again. So we come back to the style play mode, press the record button and choose record new style. I'm going to select variation 1, keep the record length and CV length to 2, keep the tempo to 152 and change the meter to 8 by 8. Now I press the menu button and choose the option import. When in this page, if you click on from, you can see all the elements of the loops that we imported. I'm going to choose variation 1, import groove. Are you sure? Yes. Now I'm going to play it to check how it sounds. That's fine. Now I'm going to save it to an empty slot and I'm going to name it as Indie Percussion Mix. I'm going to import variation 2. Press menu, import, select Indie Mix V2, change ECV to V2 CV1 and press execute. I'm going to follow the same process for all the other elements. I keep saving it with all the import. When I imported variation 4 and play, you can hear that there is a delay of measure after the 2 measure beat. If you look at the display, you can see that the keyboard selected CV length and record length is 3, whereas the actual measure of it is only 2. So I make it 2 and you can now hear it playing continuously. Now I'm going to assign in the intros. You can see that the problem that occurred in variation 4 happened in intro 1 and 2 as well. So I adjust the parameters and it is perfect. This is why I told you to note the measure of each element while importing the groove. I've now completed the process and now exit from the record mode and check the style in the style play mode. I check all the elements starting with intro 1. Intro 2. Variation 1. Variation 2. Variation 3. Variation 4. End 1. End 2. And end 3. Now I'm going to play each of the variations and you can hear the fill-ins when I move from one variation to another. They are perfect and sound awesome. The process is same for making a part as well. You select create new part instead of style. To understand how to make a part and adjust its parameters, you can watch my video on guitar mode. You can add other tracks to the style like bass, guitar and so on, and adjust the other parameters of the style both in record mode and style play mode. Please watch my videos on style making to understand these concepts better.